they classified me with what they call hand-heart syndrome. I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. People need to understand that the pain that you're going through is the very leverage you need in order to push yourself to the next level. I'm not in the business of motivation, I'm in the business of transformation. I know how to facilitate a room where people actually have a change.
It's crazy how we can use our words to completely shift somebody else.
Let's get into the nuances of speaking here with transformational speaking. The are the most powerful things that will lead people to their breakthroughs.
What up, Wealth Builders? Today, I have got one of the most inspirational people on social media, on the stage. I actually had Brad Lee on, and he was like, dude, that guy has the strongest mindset I've ever seen, just to be so optimistic and to accomplish the things he's accomplished in his life and not worry about anything. He's a guy that one of our clients connected me with as well, and I'm happy to have him here today. Nick Santonastasso. Did I say it right?
You crushed it. Yeah, let's go. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, dude. Happy to have you here, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So people may have seen like clips of you and everything, and they may not know the full background of your story, nor do I. Like, I'm super curious. Like you were just telling me you were a wrestler and all these things too. Like, tell me about like the life story that's led to this point.
Yeah, for sure. So it's best we tell them what's got going on, because if we share some powerful stuff, they'll always be thinking like, why does this guy look like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm 27 years old, and in 1996, my parents went in for a late ultrasound. And everything was good before the others, before the other ultrasounds. And they went in for this one and they pulled the baby up on the screen, and suddenly the doctors, started like freaking out. And they were like, well, what's going on? And they said, well, when we look at the picture, from the looks of it, it doesn't look like your baby's limbs are being developed. It looks like he's missing his legs. It looks like he's potentially missing his arm or two arms. And they had said that I had a cleft palate, which clearly was false. My face is beautiful. Right? So they lied about that.
There we go.
And in that moment, they classified me with what they call hand-heart syndrome. Now, I'm sure there's a super nerdy, geeky term that I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But basically, hand-heart syndrome either leaves the babies with undeveloped limbs or undeveloped organs. And so at the time of my birth in 1996, I was the 12th baby in medical history that they've ever seen this happen to. And out of the 12, 8 of those babies passed away due to undeveloped organs.
Wow.
And so those babies would be born and they can't eat on their own, they can't breathe on their own, and they would later on pass away.
Wow.
And so they looked at my parents and said, he has a 30% chance to live. And, I got to interview my parents after, like, as an adult, and like, what's the mindset behind that? And it was a very brutal time for them, for them to go back to their other family and say, hey, like, this is the chances of the baby. This is what he looks like. They had, family and friends want to abort me or institutionalize me when I was born. The doctors said he should probably abort him.
Wow.
And so they took the whole opposite route and said, we're going to lean on faith and we're going to focus on the 30% chance that he's going to live versus the 70% chance that he's going to pass away. And so my mom went on with that pregnancy, very clearly tough pregnancy, not knowing what's going on. Mm-hmm. And when I was born, the doctors, took me out and did tests on my organs, and my organs came back 100% healthy. They came back and were like, he's good. The only thing that was affected were his limbs. And so born with no legs, a short arm, and one arm with one finger. And it's the middle finger, just in case we got to.
I was going to say, it kind of looks like the middle finger.
Yeah, just in case, something gets in the way.
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
So that's how I was born. And I'm the baby in my family. And so I had a brother who passed away. We can talk about that, but I had a brother and 2 sisters. And so basically when my parents brought me back, they treated me very normal. At first, of course, I was a baby and they did a lot of things for me, but the 2 most powerful things that my parents did for me that started to cultivate my mindset, right? Because, I tell students all the time, most of our beliefs and our model of the world and the way that we view this was cultivated between 0 and 7. It's when your brain is in theta state. You're the most suggestible, right? Bird, dog. Don't do that. So you're very suggestible. And my parents at a specific age would just put my clothes in front of me and they'd be like, okay, figure it out. Or they would sit me in a high chair with a spoon there and some food and be like, okay, figure it out. And what it did at a very early age was a few things. The first thing was I was being indoctrinated or programmed to be solution oriented. We were talking about before this, you're like, yo, we just solve problems here, Yep. And I became solution oriented. And I think most humans walk around and they tend to focus most of their energy on the problem. When you focus your energy on the problem, it could become massive and overwhelming.
Yep.
And so at a very early age, I became solution oriented. And the second thing that was really impactful was I developed a great relationship with failure. I sucked at everything. putting my shirt on, feeding myself, like you name it, I failed at everything. And so I understood early on that failure was just a part of the process, and that the more that I failed, the faster I get feedback and the faster that I would succeed. Yeah. So we can go wherever you want, but that was like the foundation of them just treating me normal. And I tell people all the time, I said, most of you have all your arms and all your legs, yet you were handicapped by your upbringing.
Yep.
We all were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tell people, I had somebody on before, and he was like, yeah, the first 10 years of your child's life is the most important. That is, to your point, they're the most suggestible. That's when their belief system is really going to be formed and everything. And, for me, when I look back at my life, my parents are still married today. And I grew up as a Christian, and, I think faith is a huge part, because I just grew up in the church, and they displayed what good faith looks like. That I grew up with them telling me, hey, you can do anything you want, right? Like, you could play pro baseball. You could be the best in your class. Like, there's nothing to stop you from being the best. And I look back now and I'm like, man, did I just was I naturally disposed this way? Or did I just have the right influence of like, man, I do believe I can do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially in entrepreneurship in this world, it's like we have to be delusionally optimistic, right? Mm-hmm. That like one of the biggest superpowers you can have is only giving energy towards desirable outcomes.
Yeah.
But most people immediately, when they want to create something, they want to launch something, they want to do an event, whatever it is, the brain survival mechanism, it's like, let's play out the worst case scenario. It's going to fail. The business is going to crash. No one's going to buy the course. No one's going to buy the book. And so like, we have to be very conscious of, are we giving energy towards undesirable outcomes, or are we painting the picture of the best case scenario? Yeah. And even if the best case scenario doesn't happen, at least you take action with the intention of something great that's going to happen. Does that make sense?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I always tell people, if you knew every step that led to like hitting your goal, oh man, you'd already quit before it began, because you'd be like, dude, this is like a lot of work. And there's so many things I've done in my life that after I finally accomplished it, I was like, holy crap, there's no way I would have started this journey if I would have known all that. But then you get it done and you're like, but I'm glad I did.
100%. I think that's the same thing with failure as well, or fear. It's like we always have a fear of doing things, whether it's fear of public speaking or fear of going up to that girl or fear of putting the content out there. And then you do it and you realize that wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
But what's pretty amazing is, especially with the personal development work that we do and all the mindset and all the inner work that we do, you can only really use the tools when things don't go your way. Right? It's like, that's when you get to pull out the hammer. That's when you get to pull out the wrench, whatever it is, when like things aren't going your way and you got to manage your state, or you got to shift your focus, or you got to figure out something else. But like, we get tested the most and we grow the most during the terrible times. Mm-hmm. And so, I always say there's a reason for every season, because in every season there's a lesson. What a blessing. Right. And so I don't care if there's a season of uncertainty. I don't care if there's a season of failure. I don't care if there's a season of rejection. Like, this is going to help me become something, and I need this. So all the seasons are great, and you can find a gift in every single one of them.
Yeah. No, I love it, dude. So with that, let's just talk about your life, right? I mean, obviously your parents did the right things, right? They raised you the right way. They treated you normal. They said, dude, you can do whatever, right? So you said that the first thing you did was wrestling. That was in high school?
Yeah, actually, we can dive into, this is cool because we can dive into some deeper things, but I didn't realize I was different until I got into like middle school.
Really?
Yeah, I was treated very normal. I wasn't like bullied or anything in elementary school. I had a great set of friends, but I didn't pick up on like, I'm in a wheelchair. I didn't pick up on that everybody's taller than me. I don't know, I'm very pure.
So when you were in a wheelchair when you were young, were you doing it yourself, or you always had somebody with you?
No, I had an aide.
Okay, got it.
I had an aide. And then when it came to recess, like I would jump down and just run around,
Really?
And yeah, so yeah, like I remember there was a specific time I moved to a different area in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, and I moved to a different school in first grade.
Okay.
And I guess the teachers like pre-framed the class, like there's a kid and he's coming in the wheelchair, right? And everybody was pretty loving. And then that day at recess, my first day of recess, like I jumped out and the kids were just like, what is going on? And I had this little red ball and I was like spinning the ball and like balancing it on and everybody was crowded around and they loved me.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting, but I didn't realize I was different until middle school. And I think we can all agree, like when you get into middle school and high school, like kids are savages.
Yeah.
Right. It's like very judgmental, boyfriends, girlfriends, cliques.
So bullying wasn't really a problem in elementary. It became a problem later.
It's a great question.
Entrepreneurs, if you want to grow your business, there is no better investment than your own personal brand. The smartest thing I ever did was start creating content and investing into my brand. Ever since then, we've been able to triple our business. I've been able to raise more money than ever to continue buying more real estate. And it's all because I create content just like this. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Ryan, how am I supposed to do it? I don't know where to start. I don't know who's going to edit it. I don't know even what kind of setup or camera or anything to do. Well, here's the thing. We can help you with all of that at Pineda Media. We have a podcast checklist that you can actually get for free at pinedamedia.com that's going to go over everything you need on starting a podcast. But to make matters even better, we'll actually edit your podcast for you. We'll repurpose it into short form clips like you see on my Instagram and my TikTok so that people will start seeing those clips and watching your podcast and in turn being customers or investors in your business. So if you want the one-stop solution where you can get everything done for you, plus get the education you need to grow your personal brand, then you need to go to pinedamedia.com and book a free call with our team. You can also go get that free podcast checklist and that training program absolutely free by just going there. So go check it out.
I think based off an experience, you can believe that you're getting bullied. And because you have the belief that you're getting bullied, your brain will find evidence to prove yourself right.
Right.
So sometimes people aren't even picking on you, or sometimes you may walk into a public setting, like even if all your arms and all your legs, like if you walk into a public setting and you feel like you're ugly, you have a belief that I'm unattractive or I'm always get made fun of, someone may be holding up a phone and you think they're recording you, but it's really not about you. Or someone may be laughing, you're like, they're laughing at me. It's like your brain is the best detective. And so based on your beliefs, it's going to try to find evidence to prove yourself right, or it'll create evidence to make sure that you're right.
You'll like sabotage.
100%. And so I think there wasn't much bullying. My older brother was a wrestler. All my sisters went through the same school. So like everybody knew the last name and everything. And when I came up, I always had like really big friends. All my friends were wrestlers. And so I was good. I was chilling. But my biggest pain point, I guess I wouldn't say it's bullying, but my biggest downfall was girls.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest, deepest, darkest thing.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people based off specific experiences, especially if they don't go the way that you want them to go, we then develop beliefs about who we are and what we're capable of and this model of the world. And so there was a specific experience for me where I was on a school bus and there was a girl to the left of me and she was making fun of everybody on the school bus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh geez, here it comes. And I look this girl to the left and she looks me in my eyes and she says, I don't even have to start with you. You're already too screwed up anyway. Look at you.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that experience, I started to believe her.
Mm.
And I always let people know the majority of thoughts that you think aren't yours, you pick them up from someone else. Mm. And so I started to pick up the beliefs or the sentences that like, maybe I am disgusting, right? Maybe girls don't like me. Maybe I won't go to my junior prom, my senior prom. And because of that belief, I would find evidence to prove myself right that like I was disgusting. I wasn't attractive. Girls don't like me, all these different things. And that led me into like suicidal thoughts, right? Like deep, dark depression, like not wanting to live. And I had an honest conversation with myself. I said, Nick, you either end this, figure out, how to take your life or do something, or you try to fall in love with this body. Because the truth is like the body isn't going anywhere, right? You're no legs, you're one arm, like this is what it is. And so you have to find a way to love yourself and figure out this whole mind thing, because I would cry in the shower. So no, my parents wouldn't see it. I wouldn't go to my junior proms. I wouldn't go to my senior proms. Everybody's going to sporting events and parties. And I just didn't do any of it. I just felt disgusting. And yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it's not even like just you, right? Like normal guys like feel the same way, right? Like they get rejected by a girl, something happens. They just kind of like become one of those people that's like, dude, I'm just going to go submerge myself in my room, play video games, do that, and just never go out. And, it's like, it's so easy to get in that mindset. And it just goes back to like perspective, right? Like normal functioning humans, like still like that is a major thing of just wanting to be away from everyone, especially now and today with so much that you can just do virtually and not be seen and all that.
100%. And I think, especially in this day and age, like we soothe with everything. right? It's like we never really deal with the root cause, or we never really work through the emotion. But also, most of us weren't taught how to deal with the stuff, right? It's like, me growing up, my parents showed love in two ways. It was money and food. I didn't know what emotional intimacy was. I didn't know how to sit down and have a conversation and look my parents in their eyes and say, I'm struggling. Like, how do you work through this? Like, there wasn't that emotional tools, intellect, right? And that's not my parents' fault. My parents did the best they could with what they knew in their current conditioning, but all this stuff is trickled down. Yeah. And so I didn't know how to deal with that stuff. And so, for example, like I played a bunch of video games, right? It's like in a video game, I can run and jump and fly, but I can't do it in real life, right? So I'd play a bunch of video games. But for those people out there right now, it's like we soothe with alcohol, we soothe with drugs, we soothe with food, we soothe with porn, we soothe with like vapes, you name it, like that. And we soothe to not feel the emotion. And I always tell people, in order to heal it, you have to feel it. And if you don't feel it, you never heal it. And so for me, I was for sure soothing with food. I love food, a little chubby Italian boy, right? So food, soothing with food and video games. And because of my friends and because of me looking up to my brother, I wanted to become a wrestler. And I was like, my thought process was, okay, if I can become a wrestler in Jersey, wrestlers are super cool. They have the status, they get the girls, like all the different things. And so I was like, if I can become a wrestler, this would really change the game for me. But before wrestling, which I don't really talk about, but before wrestling, one of my best friends was a bowler. Okay. And I decided to bowl. Okay. And I still bowl to this day. Actually, I picked up bowling. But anyway.
How do you bowl?
So I have a specific ball that has no holes in it. Okay. And I pick the ball up and then I set it right before the line, and then I line my thing up and I just push it. Oh. And yeah, that's what I do. So I bowl like 2-3 times a week to get my mind off of like business. And I just,
you bowl that much right now?
We bowl, right? We've been bowling. Yeah, we do some bowling. Yeah.
Dang.
So even like I'm home for 2 to 3 days when I fly home before my next speaking stuff. And I told homeboy, I was like, we're bowling. Like,
so that's your favorite sport?
One of them. Yeah. I think my favorite sport would be wrestling if I could still do it. I wish I was way better. Yeah. But so I wanted to become a wrestler, and all my best friends are wrestlers. My older brother was a wrestler. I was like, yo, I'm gonna get some girls. And if I become a wrestler, and that's the thing is, humans will change for two reasons. We either change for pain or we'll change for pleasure, but humans will always run away from pain faster than we'll run towards pleasure, right? So people need to understand that the pain that you're going through, the traumas that you're going through is the very leverage you need in order to push yourself to the next level. So the pain of women not loving me, or the pain of not having a girlfriend, the pain of feeling disgusting was the catalyst for me to try something like wrestling. Yeah. Like, who would have thought a guy with no legs, one arm would be like, okay, I'm going to try wrestling. But there was a challenge, and the challenge was that this arm was 5 inches longer than it is now. And my bone was growing faster than my skin. Oh. So it was super sensitive. And the bottom line is, if I would have hit my arm hard enough, my bone would have came through my skin. Oh my gosh. And so like my whole childhood, actually, I played the drums. I played an electric drum set. I was really good at drums. And this arm was super sensitive, so I couldn't really touch it on physical things. I would always tuck it. And when I presented the idea to my parents that I wanted to become a wrestler, they were like, Nick, like your arm, like no way. And me being solution oriented, I was like, can we cut it off? Yeah. And I was like, they're like, what do you mean cut your arm off? You can't just cut your arm off, Nick. And I'm like, well, isn't there like surgeries or something that we could do? And so they agreed to my solution. And my sophomore year, they found one of the best doctors to amputate 5 inches of my arm off so I could become a wrestler.
Holy crap.
And so they did a skin graft where they lasered the bone off, and then they took skin from up on my shoulder and pulled it over and created my new, we call it the potato. It used to look like a chicken wing, but now it looks like a potato. And I remember telling the doctor, I'm like, yo, I need to be able to like beat someone over the head with this. Like, we need to make sure like it's cushioned up.
Needs a mallet.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I did the surgery, and I came back, and people were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to become a wrestler. And that was my journey of pursuing wrestling to get me out of this deep, dark, negative place.
Wow. That's crazy. I would think, this is just me thinking as a sports guy, did you have an advantage as a wrestler? Because like you probably didn't weigh that much.
Yeah. I guess there's both sides, pros and cons. Right? Yeah. And so for me, my junior year of high school, I was JV, so I wasn't the starter. Okay. And then senior year, I was the 106-pound varsity wrestler from my high school. Okay. But the thing was, in order to be eligible for varsity, you had to weigh at least 85 pounds. Okay. Right? And I didn't weigh 106 pounds. So
that's just what you wrestled in.
I was wrestling 106 pounds. That was the tiniest weight class. Yeah. Right? But in order for me to wrestle varsity, I had to weigh at least 85. So all my homeboys are cutting weight, and starving. And I'm like stuffing myself before weigh-ins to make sure that I hit the weight. So my disadvantage, other than this, right, is I was weighing 85 pounds, wrestling a 106-pound guy.
Okay, all right.
So
I was thinking if you were wrestling equal weights.
Yeah, no.
So you were still at an extreme weight.
But now if we were wrestling equal weights, my arm was way stronger than a 106-pound wrestler's both arms.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so they would have to like a 2-on-1, put 2 arms on this arm to try to get me down. I was just very good at not going down. I sucked, but they wouldn't pin me, you know? And so, but there's a lot of stuff there that ties into like our life now is I got with a team or I got with a community.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't get into a community that babied me.
Right. They're like, bro, we're going to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like we're in practice. Like we're not holding back.
You want to play here. It is what it is.
Exactly. And so I got into a community of people that were challenging me, that were pushing me. And I also just found a deep level of brotherhood. Yeah. You know, I think like even from the men listening as well is like oftentimes we don't have a deep, meaningful relationship with dudes, right? That you can be authentic, you can be vulnerable, that you can lean on, you can cry with. Like we weren't taught any of this stuff, right? We have this whole thing that you got to be hard all the time and you got to, you know, just be a man and suck it up. But that's why people have unresolved traumas because they've been pushing it down and soothing their whole life. Yeah. And so even me, like any of the hard stuff that I go through, I rely on brotherhood for a lot of it.
Yeah. If you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes or flip more homes or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there. I can tell you, obviously, I grew up playing sports. And so, just everything with the boys, like it truly, there's nothing like it. It's not something your wife can fix. It's not something that your parents can fix. It just is what it is. You need somebody who's willing to call you on your crap, make fun of you, but you know, it's in a loving way. And, people that are going to be there to lift you up. And it's not easy to find though in today's world.
It's not. And I think it comes with a lot of intention, right? Those people, like that brotherhood needs to align with your values. They need to align with your purpose of what you're creating. They have to have things that you want. I think oftentimes, we pick mentors because they have like one thing, but do they have the whole package that you want? Yeah. Right. And so especially in friends. And I think that's hard because maybe we grow up with the same people and then we drift away. But I think just being very intentional, like what are those characteristics that I want in someone and, having that programmed in your mind so you can pick up on those people. But it's the same thing with relationships. It's like, be very detailed. It's like, what kind of girl do you want? Mm-hmm. What are her attributes? What are her characteristics? How does she show up in the world? But if you don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are walking around very aimlessly. They're like, oh, well, an opportunity will present itself. That's like, well, no, you kind of create your own opportunities by actively searching for them.
100%. But I also think we're in a very soft cycle of the world.
Yeah. Like for you, what is it like when you see people just making excuses and stuff? Because I'm one of these guys who I don't take crap from anybody's excuse. I'm like, bro, you're just soft. I don't know what else to tell you. You're just like the softest human on the planet. And they're like, oh, freaking, I got this going on and that going on. And in my mind, I'm just like, well, dude, you could easily be doing whatever. In your mind, you're like coming at it from a whole different perspective. You're like, you got 2 arms, you got 2 legs, you freaking, what's your excuse?
Yeah. I think I have a unique approach or a mindset on this. The moment people feel judged, we close the door for transformation. Mm-hmm. So the first step in transforming someone or either getting them to move into action is understanding their model of the world and where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Now they can share that and they can express why are they that way? Why am I overweight and why this? And at least some understanding. And you may not believe it all, but at least my biggest thing that helped me transform a lot of lives is having compassion and meeting people for where they're at. And then if I have compassion and understand where they're at, then I can ask for permission. Is it okay if I speak to you direct? But it's one thing for us to just judge and like rip people open. It's like,
yeah,
it works for some people, but not a lot of people. That everybody's got a different taste of communication and everybody's got a different taste of receiving.
Yeah.
Right. And so I understand with compassion that people only know what they know.
Yeah.
And they weren't taught it or they weren't exposed to the information. You know, like for example, like growing up, like I wasn't exposed to people running businesses. So how am I supposed to know that that's an amazing path? Or I wasn't exposed to, you know, people in my family always being in shape and lifting weights. I wasn't exposed to that. And so we have to understand that people only know what we know. But it's another thing that if you have the information and you don't do anything with it, then that's a totally different case. But people are lost, bro. Yeah. And they weren't taught. No one taught them. They weren't exposed to the information. They didn't have a good upbringing. And so I'd like to have compassion. And then once I have compassion, I can be a little bit more direct. But yeah, it does bother me in a sense too. It's like, especially when people have all their arms and all their legs and
are you ever like, dude,
not in shape. Or,
if I had what you had, like it'd be a wrap.
But would it?
Yeah. That's what I was wondering.
Would
like,
it
how
be a
you
wrap?
Perceive that? Yeah.
Would it be a wrap? Would I be as motivated? Would I have this psychology? Would I be able to transform lives at this level if I wasn't in this unique vessel? You know, and people ask me all the time, like, if you could have arms and you can get your arm back and your legs back, would you do it? Or I never had them, so I'm not getting it back. But if I could add it to me, right?
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, because I wouldn't be Nick. I wouldn't be the vessel, right? And I'm a firm believer that God put me in this unique vessel to be a messenger to do his work here, right? And because I'm in a unique vessel and I have a lot of skills and I have a lot of knowledge and I ask great questions and I can transform people's lives, the vessel is the unique part.
Yeah.
Right? It's the messenger. Like your message is going to resonate with people that I can't reach. And my message and my vessel, my whole situation is going to reach people that you can't reach. It's like, we're not in competition. Like we're just vessels. And so I wouldn't go back, or I wouldn't, you know, get arms and legs and have a different life.
Yeah.
Right. But I think oftentimes I can look at people and be like, how dare you, you know? And I think I have my times where I come off more aggressive, less compassionate. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me is nurturing your body, right? Like I watch your health stuff that you're doing now, right?
Yeah.
And the shifts that you're making. And it's like, you only get one vessel.
Mm-hmm.
You only get one body. And for people to trash it and destroy it, that pisses me off.
Yeah.
Right? Because my creator, you know, made me and forgot a few parts, and I don't get what you get. And even the small shifts, it's like y'all can go into a gym and you can pick up a dumbbell without anybody's help. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Y'all can go up to the treadmill and click the button. Like I need to ask for help. Like you're wasting it. You're wasting it all.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with your point, man. It's like, you know, if you're a Christian, then you believe that, you know, we're all part of the body and we're all here to serve a different function for the body. And, you know, it's true. It's like, man, dude, it's like you're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. Somebody's doing their thing. It's all for the good. And, you know, I just love your perspective on it, because I agree. You wouldn't have the mindset you have today if you just grew up a normal life. Like who knows where you would be, right? And so I wouldn't even say that your creator forgot a few parts. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like he made you exactly the way that you needed to be made to do the things you got to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I appreciate that. And, you know, my whole life I was focused on what I didn't have versus what I did have.
When do you think you started to really shift your mindset?
I got to give it all to Tony Robbins, to be honest. It's like I was athletic and I was bodybuilding and I was filming videos, but I think most of my success came from burying my inner child. I think most of my success and the things that I built and the content that I created was to build this massive thing around all the trauma or me not feeling enough. Like the reason why I created a bunch of content, the reason why I learned so much about neuroscience, and the reason why I build all these things is because the little boy like never felt enough. And so I wanted to prove. And so I think I can look back now, bodybuilding, the reason why I was successful in bodybuilding is because my main focus was shredded body equals girls.
Yeah.
That was my driver. Right. And I can say that as an evolved man of like, that was my intention. That was my pursuit. That was my pull. And that's why I was successful. I was obsessed. It's like, okay, if I can get shredded, like girls I'm going to be loved. Right. That's the root cause. It's like, I'm going to be loved.
Yeah.
When I created pranking videos, it's like people clapped and they loved it. And I got likes and comments and I got validation.
When did you start doing that?
When I was 18 years old, my senior year of high school, the app Vine came out and you can post 6-second videos. And I was like, okay, like maybe there's something here. And I decided that I was going to put fake blood on my face and fake blood on my clothes and crawl around Walmart trying to scare people. And I did it successfully. And
I bet you did.
I filmed a prank in Walmart and I got kicked out of that Walmart. I'm not allowed in there anymore. And I posted the video and it was the #1 video in the world on Vine.
Wow.
Like even under Logan Paul and all those guys. Like Logan messaged me and was like, bro, you're the most followed Viner today. You know, like congratulations.
That's
like back when I was like just a prankster. But that was all to fill a void of love me.
Yeah.
Love me, love me, love me. Is this enough? I get the likes, I get the comments, I get the validation. And so, yeah, I built most of my stuff from not feeling enough.
Yeah.
And
I mean, most people do.
And I think it's okay at first, right? It's a great intention. Like I think a lot of us built some crazy things of like proving to the world, like I'm enough, I'm man enough, I'm woman enough, whatever it is. And then there has to become a shift where you do it not for you, but for the people that you're serving.
Yeah. I've said this before, but like I grew up a Packers fan and Aaron Rodgers, you know, one of the best QBs ever. You can just tell for me observing him for his whole career. He's one of those guys who's always trying to prove something to everyone. Like he still thinks he's an underdog. You know, he's always got this chip on his shoulder. And I know it started from just his entire career. He had to go to JUCO. He wasn't good enough for D1. And then, you know, he does good in D1 at Cal. And, you know, he's supposed to be the #1 pick and he falls all the way to 24. And then he has to sit 3 years. And so he has all these things that are always stacked against him. And then, you know, he wins and people are still saying Tom Brady's better. And so he's just constantly never enough. And you can see with his actions and his relationships, they're not good.
Yeah.
You know, he's just always going through girlfriends and fiancés and burning bridges. And I know he's estranged from his parents. And like, I love watching the guy.
Yeah.
But I can't help but feel like, man, dude, this guy, talk about like never making that shift of like, bro, nobody doubts you. Like you're fine.
You're enough.
You're good. You should not, like, you got to get over this thing of you think people are still like slighting you. They're not. So
100%. And that's right. That comes down to the brain being a detective, right? He has a belief that like, he's always got to prove something.
Yeah.
Right. So he's always going to find it. He's always going to create it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. So I think there's a shift. Hopefully we find the shift.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Maybe sometimes people don't receive their blessings.
And by the way, Aaron, if you're watching this, dude, freaking let's come on and talk about it.
We love you. Yeah.
We love you. I'm still a massive fan. It's just, and I don't know him personally. Like I know other athletes, but just from the outside looking in, that's what I see.
Yeah. Come kick it. Let's go.
Yeah. We'll kick it. And you know, we'll get deep.
Get to the root cause.
Yeah. We'll get to the root cause and look, dude, I'll let you know you've made it.
Yeah. I think too, even analyzing all of us, whether it's him, me, or you, it's like somewhere along the line, we were taught that we weren't enough.
Yeah.
Or we believed that we weren't enough. There was an experience or something happened, you know, like when we teach people how to speak, like sometimes people have the fear of public speaking. That tends to come from when you were like in 4th grade and you raised your hand and someone told you to shut up.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to speak because of that experience, speaking equals pain.
Yeah.
Right. For me, women equals pain, right?
Yeah.
All that different type of stuff.
So how did you get over it?
How did I get over what?
I mean, you said Tony Robbins was like a very big influence of like how you started to really shift your mindset.
Yeah. So bodybuilding was great, right? But I wasn't doing any personal development. You know, I was just lifting weights and getting in shape and eating food. And that was my life. And I had moved from Jersey to Tampa. Well, before that, I moved to LA, went broke when I was pranking. That's a whole nother story. Failed there. And I moved back home with my parents and I was, hey, I'm going to pursue bodybuilding. And what's pretty challenging with bodybuilding is I told my parents, like, I'm going to become a bodybuilder, but I can't snap my finger and be like, I'm jacked, you know, like it takes time to see the vision. And my intention was if I can get in really good shape, like I can monetize it as supplements, program, you know, all of that.
Being an
different type of
influencer.
stuff. Yeah, 100%. And I moved from Jersey to Tampa to pursue bodybuilding. And I was at a mastermind. There was like 8 people there. My buddy that I met was like, hey, I'm having a few entrepreneurs over at my house. You should just come meet people. And so I go to this mastermind and, like, just came from the gym. I have no legs, one arm. I pull up in my car, like I'm driving a car. People are like, what is going on here? And I like walk in there, no aid, no wheelchair.
You drive on your own?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I go into this mastermind and everybody's sharing what they got going on. And I started to share my story. And there was a guy to the left that I'd never met in my life. And he said, you're going to be on stage with Tony Robbins one day. And I said, who's Tony Robbins? And I had no idea anything, bro. I didn't know. I was a bodybuilder. Like all I knew how to do was pick weights up and put them down. That's all I was exposed to. No one taught me.
Yeah.
And he was like, I love your message. The world needs to hear your message. He's like, I don't even know where this is coming from. He's like, I'll work for you for free. He's like, I don't even care. He's like, I'm doing real estate right now. I will work for you for free. And if one day, like we do some cool stuff together, maybe one day we'll start a company together. And that was the moment in time where someone saw the gift in me that I didn't see myself. Someone exposed me to an industry. Someone exposed me to personal development and all this different type of stuff. And at the time I was working my first and only job. I was working customer service at a meal prep company for a guy that I met in Tampa. I was just answering phones. I can answer phones. Yeah. And I was a terrible employee, mentally unemployable. And that gentleman had called me and was like, you need to quit your job. We're going to go all in on the speaking stuff. Wow. I was like, okay. And so I quit my job and I ended my lease and I moved into their house and I slept on a couch. My room was the living room. Right when you walked in, I slept on the couch and that's all I had. And we started figuring out what the speaking world was. So we started getting books about paid to speak and what these speakers were doing and literally built the company from the ground up, like no one knew who I was. Yeah. And getting my message out there, just at first my message was, if I can do it, you can do it. Like that's all I had. And so we'd go anywhere to speak. I'd go on any podcast or I was speaking to car dealerships and like, you name it, volunteering at high schools and middle schools, like wherever I could just get reps, and like people are like, how are you such a great speaker? Yeah, there may be a gift of articulating a message, but at the end of the day, you want to master something, you just need to do it over and over and over again. And so I got a lot of reps when no one knew who I was.
That's the best time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, and it's the analogy that we give our speaking students is like, speakers are like comedians, right? It's like you see Kevin Hart on a big stage, but you don't realize that he practiced that segment when no one knew who he was in a dive bar, right? And so for speakers, like dive bars are the high schools, they're the middle schools, they're the small events, the small associations, the little podcasts that you can go on, and you perfect or you get really good at your delivery and then you can go on a big stage, but go practice it in a dive bar. Yeah. And I was in a dive bar for a very long time. No one knew who I was. My calendar wasn't booked up. No one was paying me to speak. I was a nobody.
Everybody just wants to go straight to the top.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Instant gratification. Yeah. Right. And I feel like even with money, I always say, I'm glad I'm getting wealthy slow than wealthy fast. Because if you would have plopped money into my lap when I was a 20-year-old kid, I would have blew it. Yeah. I wouldn't know how to deploy it. I wouldn't know how to put it into assets. I wouldn't know anything.
And you wouldn't know like what hard work is required to make money.
Yeah. The man you have to become in order to receive that type of money. Yeah. Right. And so, I practiced in private or practiced at small places when people didn't know who I was. Yeah. And then speaking of our whole intention when we were building the speaking company was like, okay, if we can get the blessing from Tony, we have all the clout in the world, right? It's like you have all the credibility you get from, in my belief, he's the GOAT, right? Like that's sensei, right?
Who's your top 3 speakers since like it's something you study and have perfected? Who you think?
It's going to get they're all my friends. So if they're not on the list, they might get upset, right? Good question, Ryan. Tony's number 1. Yeah. And but you living or not alive?
Give me just a top 5 then, you can add some living, you can add some dead, I want to know who you're studying because I want to become a better speaker too.
Yeah. So Tony learned from Jim Rohn. Yep. So Jim Rohn's GOAT, right? Yeah. It's like, there is no Tony Robbins without Jim Rohn.
He's the GOAT's GOAT.
Right. Right. So I got to give it to Jim. Yeah. Right? Jim Rohn. Of course, Zig Ziglar. Yep. But I would put Tony Tony's there. No one.
They're like all in their own atmosphere.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Right.
Right.
Yep. And so I put Tony. And then when it comes to, I'd say, day to day in this world, this is going to put me in awkward. I would say Ed Milet.
Yep.
Ed Milet is elite speaker. This is tough, Ryan. You put me on a really pickle here.
Well, I'm glad you said Ed because he would have been mad if you didn't. So
yeah, Ed, we love you. Right?
Yeah.
I would say Ed Milet. Bro, this is tough.
Just put yourself right up there too.
Yeah, I'm up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a goat.
Yeah.
I'll just say it.
Just say it.
I'm up there. Great.
That's 5 right there.
Yeah, great. All right.
We don't even need to come up with anyone else.
Great.
There we're at. We're at
Me.
5.
It's all me. 1, 2, 3. No, it's good. but that's the thing is,
who else do you like? You don't have to. They don't have to be in any particular order. You've spoken on a lot of stages.
Yeah. Ed Milet. I love Bradley. I think Bradley has a very unique persona of comedy and value. Yeah. Very straight to the point.
Also that Brad comes totally unprepared.
Yeah.
And he just does it.
Yeah.
Like off the top of his head.
Yeah. I'm a big supporter and I love Ryan Stewman.
Okay.
As a facilitator and as an expert. And great.
That's the list, baby.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna put it there.
All right.
But everybody's their own unique vessel.
Yeah.
And they have
people are going to resonate
style.
with certain people versus others.
100%. Some people are aggressive communicators and make people laugh, and some people are deep, meaningful, transformational speakers. You know? And I applaud myself and acknowledge myself in being a deep, meaningful, transformational speaker. Yeah. If people call me motivational speaker, I'm like, I'm not in the business of motivation. I'm in the business of transformation.
Yeah.
So I know how to facilitate a room where people actually have a change. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the difference. To be honest, if I can talk that talk, is like most speakers are in the business of information. Yeah, you can get up there and you can share information, but are people retaining it? Are they in an active learning state? Are they having breakthroughs? And I've been to a lot of events. Most people aren't. Yeah. They think active learning is cheesy. They think facilitating and asking people to do exercises is cheesy, but my people get breakthroughs. And that's why any event that I go through, I don't care. I'm going to talk at it. Any event that I go through, no matter who's on the list, go send a survey out and see who is most transformational. Yeah. All day.
Yeah.
Put me with the big dogs. I'm telling you.
All right.
That's it.
I'm going to get all these goats. I'm going to say, all right, let's get who's number one.
Great.
Pull it.
Run it up.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'll bet on all day.
I love it. It's funny because like you said, different speakers resonate with different people. And so for me, I've always been a logical guy. And so I'm like, dude, I don't need rah-rah. Like freaking just tell me the tactics of what I need.
Yep.
But I might be in the 10%. The other 90% of people need to like have a complete mindset shift to reach the next level. Like they're just not there. And that's most people. And I now have understood that because as a guy who now runs events all the time, it used to be, I was like, dude, I don't want any of these fluff speakers. That's what I'd call them. I want like actual tactical things that people can take home. And you do that, but like you said, very few people are able to convey tactical information in a way that is going to stick. Yeah. You know, it's like they could be reading off a textbook or slides. And I even catch myself doing that where I'm like, hey, if I truly want to become great at speaking and getting people to transform, I'm going to have to learn to incorporate storytelling and comedy and entertainment while also delivering the tactical things I want them to do. And so that's something that I agree. Like the best speakers are a blend of both.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it comes down to, I do a lot of disarming on stage. I do a lot of pre-framing to get people to buy in, right? It's like, how can I go into a room with people like you? Because I know you're in the room, right? Yeah. I know people just like you are in the room. They have the analytical mind, their logic, they want that. It's like, how can I show these people that they need to play all out?
Yeah.
Right. And so, for example, my biggest belief that I have to get the audience to adopt if I'm just doing a signature talk, right, is that psychology is the majority of the battle, right? And so I'll come off on stage or I'll come out on stage and I'll ask them, I'll be like, I'm just curious, how many of you ever went to a seminar, you took a whole bunch of notes, you had the strategies and went home and did nothing with them?
Yeah.
They're like, that's me. I'm like, great. And then I'll give another example. I'll say, how many of you know how to lose weight? Okay, how many of you
are still fat?
Exactly. And it's direct, right? But what I did was I set up 2 pieces of evidence to prove the point. You see, stage masters prove the point before they make the point.
Yeah.
And so I just got them to bought in twice that, okay, I have the strategies, but why am I not getting the results? And that's when I dropped, listen, 80% is psychology, 20% is mechanics. That's why even in your business, all these businesses, you can give people the same book, the same way to close, the same script, but only a few will perform.
Yeah.
Why? You have the same strategies. It's a psychology.
Yeah.
So I've just disarmed the whole entire crowd. They now are in agreement that, okay, I'm maybe analytical and I may have the strategies, but maybe I need a mindset shift.
Yeah.
So you guys ready for the journey? Is that okay? Say yes. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
Disarm, disarm, disarm.
Yeah.
So it's all about the pre-frame and the disarm and getting them to be bought into the idea before I even start teaching.
Where did you learn all this?
I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on mentors, but I would say going back to Tony, I've spent over 1,000 hours observing him, like in a room, like in the room, watching him facilitate breakthroughs, watching him facilitate change, watching him storytell.
How did you do that?
I paid to be in the rooms.
So you just
Events,
went to a Tony event like every week or what?
Well, now I tour with him.
You're touring with him now?
I do every single UPW with Tony.
Wow.
Every single time that he does a UPW in person or virtual, I am facilitating.
Wow, I
teaching.
did not know that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how many like events is that a year?
I think he does 3 to 4 or 3 to 5.
Okay.
He does a combination of virtual and in person.
Yeah.
He's got a little baby. He's getting up there.
Yeah.
He's been pushing his body. So he's whenever I have the opportunity to
Tony
get
has a new baby right now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
He's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he's toned down a little bit. And that's why,
yeah,
bro, it's like, go see the people before they're gone.
Yeah.
There's never going to be another Tony.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be Tony. I'm trying to be Nick, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants,
Yeah.
right? It's like the only reason, right? Like I said earlier, the only reason why there's a Tony Robbins is because there was a Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
The only reason why there's a Nick Santonastasso is because there was a Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He showed me the way. He showed me the path.
Yeah.
Right. And if the mentors are good enough, we should pass the mentors all day.
Yeah.
And so like what I've been able to build in 6 years.
It took Tony 30, 40 years. Yeah.
Already gave me the blueprint.
Yeah. You didn't have to go through all the learning pains.
Thank you for it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've spent, I went to my first Tony event and I was attending, and this was my first really immersive experience of like unwiring and rewiring the brain. I've never been to anything like that. Right. And you don't know it. You only know if you know. Like when you go there, you're like, what is this all about? It's like, we're rewiring our whole entire brain when we go there. And so when I saw Tony speak for 13 hours straight.
Crazy. That's a different level.
Bro, I'm like, my hour keynote, like I'm just starting off. I'm like, this guy just changed everybody's lives in 13 hours. They were crying, they were laughing, they were inspired. They did exercises. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Right. And so there's observing as an attendee, and then there's observing as a student. And so the first couple events, student breakthroughs, shifts, all that different type of stuff. And our whole intention of going to that Tony event was not only to have breakthroughs and have shifts, but I wanted to plant seeds everywhere of like, this is who I am. And I just wanted Tony to see me, I just wanted like the GOAT to just like acknowledge me.
Yeah, yeah.
And it got to the point where the first event, day 3, he comes off stage and he's like, I'm sitting in like, by the way, let me back up. We couldn't even afford tickets. Like it was me and 2 buddies. Like we couldn't even afford 3 tickets. And so they pitched in to get my ticket. And then they were able to get me upgraded, like leverage my cards. Like Nick's in a wheelchair. He needs to be up front. Like, I don't know, just get in the room, right? Like, you got to work with what you got.
Let's use our advantages.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And so they volunteered as a crew, because you can crew for Tony. And then I attended, and I would be learning. And then my boys would be like, yo, come meet this security guard and tell him your story. And I'd be like, go to the security guard. Yo, come meet this person backstage that's doing his sales and tell him your story. And I would just tell my story everywhere. And finally, day 3, Tony comes off stage and he's like, I got to stop. He's like, there's a guy in the front of the row. His name's been going around. I don't know who he is, but this is Nick, and he's got no legs of an arm, and he's been playing full out than a lot of you in here. Give him a round of applause. And I was like, oh, this is amazing, right? And because I got my ticket upgraded, they invited me backstage to take pictures. There was like a meet and greet. And so I'll condense this story. But met Tony, he invited me to his next event, went to that event, had a bunch of breakthroughs, and then told his team, if there was any opportunity to speak with Tony and be on stage with him, they're like, no, that's not realistic. 2 years goes by of us blowing up their team. And finally they were like, hey, Tony has a youth event in San Diego. He's not there. It's just his facilitators. We can't pay you. We can't fly you out. And we can't pay for your hotel room. Can you do it?
Yeah.
Now I look at my business partner. I'm like, no way. You know who I am? You know, like I'm on my come up. You know, it's Tony Robbins. Why is he not paying me? Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, like, don't be an idiot. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're not going to ask for anything. And
I
so I
love
go
that.
there and I did a great job with the kids. And by the way, at that point, I've already studied how Tony keeps the room in an active state. I've already studied the call to actions. I already studied storytelling. Like I'm getting saucy. And so I do this event for the kids and they love it. And I knew that if I did it well enough, maybe you get back to Tony, you know? And a year goes by, I didn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, thanks. That's it. I'm like, hey, can I speak with Tony? No. A year goes by, a year and a half goes by. And finally I get an email from his team. They're like, hey, we're looking for speakers for Tony's main stage. You're first in line. Are you ready? And by the way, this is me working behind the scenes for free, volunteering for 2 years. And no one knows this.
Yeah.
This is me grinding, bro. Broke, speaking fees just here and there. Like I'm just
sporadic.
Yeah. Right. And they're like, are you ready? I was like, I'm ready. And so they tried me out on UPW. And after I spoke at UPW, they came back and said, Tony was ecstatic on the way that you kept the energy in the arena. He wants you to be at all of his events.
Wow.
And that was it. And of course I'm building my brand myself, but that was a massive catalyst. Like that was the intention. If I can get the salute from the GOAT, we're on a pretty good trajectory.
Yeah.
And so I got to tour with him, Australia, Singapore, Miami. My biggest event with Tony was 15,000 people in Miami Heat Arena we did together. And I got to do that all before COVID shut down everything. And then COVID shut everything down. We were living in Florida and I was speaking a bunch and my business model wasn't efficient. I was only getting paid for keynote fees and book sales, right? So trading time for money. And I was like, okay, well, if we move ourselves to Vegas, I can build relationships with all the meeting planners here. I probably don't have to leave. We could just do all our business in Vegas. And so we moved the company to Vegas in February 2020.
Okay. Then it shut down.
And then all hell broke loose. And it destroyed our company and we went under. I wasn't prepared for that. I had to get like a disaster loan that kept me up.
Yeah.
And that's when I looked around and said, okay, everybody has digital products. Everybody has coaches, masterminds. Everybody's doing virtual challenges. We need to learn that.
Yeah. And
that's when that moment that we got crushed gave me enough leverage and my business partner enough leverage to learn digital marketing, events, virtual. Yeah. We dove in deep.
Yeah. I mean, Tony even had to do the same thing. His business got crushed from it. Any live event business did.
Yeah. He got crushed. And but I watched them pivot. Like there was that couple weeks of fear.
They're like, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm like, I'm broke. I don't know what to do. It's like, what are the GOATs doing? Right. And success leaves clues. So like I see Dean Graziosi, I see Tony Robbins, I see all these people pivoted to virtual challenges. I was like, all right, we need to do that.
You know, what's interesting though, just like listening to the story is even still, because the original question I was like, how did you learn all of these concepts and to speak so well and everything? And he said, I studied the GOAT for 1,000 hours. And I was like, okay, I'm curious how that went about. If he taught you, and from the sound of it, it's still like, obviously you got to be around him and like absorb everything that was happening, but it still doesn't sound like, you know, Tony was like, hey, one-on-one mentorship, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like you still just were able to watch the greats and pick apart what you see, which is a unique skill in itself that the only reason I'm calling it out is because I've done the same thing where I can really study people just from afar and I can really pick up what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I'm like, okay, there's a couple of questions that if I do talk to them, I'll want answered, but I don't need them to go break this down for me and waste so much time. Like I'm already prepared to go talk to them about what I want to know.
100%. Yeah. And for example, is one of the questions that I asked myself was like, where did he learn? Mm-hmm. What was he consuming? What did he learn? And so when I asked that question, I realized, and you know, there's like different perspectives on this, but ultimately Tony took NLP and made it Tony P. Right? Like put it on steroids, like took this, was like, I can make this way better, and then made it way better. But I was like, okay, what's NLP, neuro linguistic programming? Okay, let me become a practitioner in that. So when I became a practitioner in NLP, I learned NLP stands for the language of the mind. So I know how to speak in a way to put people in trance. I know how to speak in a way where I can insert beliefs. I know ways to break down beliefs. And so I learned NLP, I learned hypnotherapy, I learned timeline therapy, I've learned hypnosis as well, putting a whole crowd in hypnosis, but in an empowering way. And so I went to the source. I'm like, where did he learn from? And so, okay, now I know storytelling. Now I know how to engage the crowd. Now I know how to transform people's lives. Now I got to go to the master of virtual events, whoever that is. I got to go to the master of how to sell on stage in a heart-centered way.
Yeah.
I got to go to the master of how to sell ticket sales. Like you said, I find people who have a specific skill set and I pay for it.
Yep.
That's it. It's like, cut out the noise. It's like, oh, you're the best at selling from stage in a storytelling, heart-centered way. I'm paying you.
Yep.
Oh, you're the best at putting together 4-hour workshops and virtual events. We're doing a deal. I'm paying you.
Yep.
Oh, you're the best at storytelling. I'm going to study you. And so, like you said, I find these little parts. I'm like, who has that skill set or that toolbox that I need? And I'll just pay to condense time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always like that, right? And so before I had money, it's like, you got to study. You got to find ways to get in the room. You got to volunteer. You got to provide value. You got to study from afar.
Yeah, nobody's teaching you for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, you said there's one I'd never heard before. It was in between time-centered therapy.
Timeline therapy.
Timeline therapy.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, we can get a little geeky. Timeline therapy, basically.
If you can't tell, I'm trying to pick your brain on becoming a better speaker for myself.
Yeah, great. I don't know if timeline therapy will help you, but we could talk afterwards. But timeline therapy basically is the conscious mind doesn't know all the answers. The subconscious mind knows everything. The subconscious mind is a hard drive, right? It knows all the answers. And if you're able to put yourself in a meditative state or a hypnosis or a trance state, you can ask great questions and you'll get the answer. You're like, I'll give you a weird example that I don't think many people relate to, but I play video games. And when I'm in video games, when I'm playing video games, I'm in trance.
Yeah.
And I realized this one time. I was playing video games and my brain out of nowhere asked me, like, I asked the question of like, how am I going to retire my dad? And boom, I got the answer right away. And I'm like, I'm playing video games. Like I'm focused on the video game, but I was in a trance and I asked myself a question and my subconscious spit me out an answer. It was a great answer. So anyway, timeline therapy basically is trauma is an emotionally charged event, right? So the body remembers everything. The body is always keeping score. It never forgets it, right? So that's why when you have a traumatic event, you may not remember their face. You may not remember what they were wearing, but you always remember how they made you feel. The body remembers it. It's the same thing if you look into the wild. Typically why animals don't have trauma or like PTSD is because after they fight, what do? They shake their body out. They shake out the trauma. That's just their programming. They don't know how to shake it and disarm the emotion. So anyway, timeline therapy is the process of me putting you into a trance or hypnosis state with your permission and me asking you, okay, what is the earliest moment that you experience anger? Right. So there is a sequence of emotions. It's like an onion that you can heal trauma with. So it's anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. I'm pretty sure. And if I were to ask you, Ryan, I want you to go back. I want you to ask your subconscious mind. I want you to go back to the earliest moment you experienced anger. You may go back to a moment when you were 6 years old. But what tends to happen is your brain will distort, it'll delete, and it will generalize trauma so you don't feel it. Right? So a lot of times when people have extremely traumatic events, they don't remember it because their brain distorted it, they deleted it, or they generalized it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, because even when you're asking me like your earliest memory of anger, I'm like,
you don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
Exactly. Because we're in the conscious right now, right?
Okay.
And so say you go to 6 years old, and what I would do is I would have you float over the event. So your eyes are closed, and I have you float over the event, and I would have you see this event. And I'd be like, okay, what are the gifts? What did you learn from it? Who did you become because of that event? And then when you find enough learnings and you find enough gifts, the emotion will fade. But if the emotion doesn't fade, that means there's an earlier moment. And so if you're like, I'm still angry, I'd be like, okay, subconscious mind, is there an earlier moment? You may go to 3, to a moment that you haven't thought about for 37 years.
Yeah.
And then we go to that moment and then we neutralize it until you don't feel the anger anymore. And if I can go to the earliest moment that you've experienced anger, and it's called the gestalt. But if I can go to the earliest moment that you've experienced anger, we can neutralize that event, eliminates all the other anger towards a lot of other events moving up to your present moment.
Wow.
And so the way that we're taught is the brain cannot decipher what's real and what's visualized. The brain's never left the skull, has no idea. That's why we can visualize things and feel things in the present moment, right? So the whole teaching is whether that event was real or whether it wasn't, if the emotion fades, why question the healing? So it's like a hypnotherapy thing.
That's crazy.
But timeline therapy, I take a whole crowd technically through a hypnosis or a timeline therapy when I go on stage. And so every single event that I go to now is I have people go through, at the end, I tell them I'm going to take you through a blessing, right? Because if I tell them it's a meditation, they're like, eh. If I tell them I'm going to take you through
hypnosis, they're like, nah.
Right? I've even had to tell the
now give me your credit card.
Exactly. I've even had to tell the MCs, like, don't tell them I'm
hypnotizing.
Yeah, like don't tell. He's certified in hypnotherapy. No, don't tell him. Like, let him just lean into the breakthrough, because we have all these walls up. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm a vessel for change. I'm a vessel for good. I love people, right? And so I have them go through a specific moment where they visit some moments, and then I have them visualize going into their childhood room. I insert an age in their head. I'm like 5, 7, 9. So now I'm auto suggesting, because they're in trance. I can tell them where they go, and they visualize their childhood door. Their room. They go into the door. They sit on the bed next to their child, their inner child, and they have they heal. They do inner child work, and they have no idea what they're doing. That's crazy. Now that people that are watching this, if you see me, just go through it. You'll have a great experience. But people have no idea that they'll go through 10 years of therapy in one session with me.
Wow, guys! If you think we should get Nick to WealthCon to be blessed, not to be hypnotized,
not hypnotized, blessed.
Yeah. Okay. Comment below. Let us know if you think he should be at the next WealthCon. But yeah, no, it's fascinating, because like there's so much in terms of just the words because all you're using is words. It's like you're using words to do all of these breakthroughs and different things, and it's crazy how we can use our words to completely shift somebody else.
100%. And to let's get into the nuances of speaking here with transformational speaking. Leverage me while you have me here, by the way, right?
I'm ready.
Is the questions you ask people are the most powerful things that will lead people to their breakthroughs in your session. Questions dictate our focus. So if we can ask a great question, they're going to get a great answer. You see, most speakers go out on stage and they say, this is the way, and this is what you should do, and this is a strategy, this is how you should live life. No one likes being told what to do. Mm-hmm. But I tell people, I said, I'm not here to give you answers, but I'm here to ask you the right questions that lead you to your own answers. Because if it's your answer, you'll take action on it.
Yeah, you came up with it.
It's your idea. Yeah, you came, exactly, right? That's what Jesus was a master at asking questions.
Yeah, he always did it through parables.
Right? He would answer your question with a question or two questions, right? Because he knew that the greatest communicators, the greatest transformers ask great questions that lead their people to their own breakthroughs. Mm-hmm. So when I share, it's one thing that I share an amazing story. It's another thing that I share an amazing lesson and a teaching point. But if I drop a profound question on you, you're going to start to think about things. So the audience is one question away from their breakthrough. And so it's not as difficult as we think it is, but it's exercising the muscle of asking thought-provoking questions to lead people to their own breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the greatest things that I do within my sessions is I know how to ask great questions to get people to be like,
yeah, no, I'm with you, man, because I learned that a long time ago when it came to negotiating, especially, first it was flipping houses. And so, we're negotiating with sellers and realtors and all these guys. And I always realized early on that, dude, as long as I could speak like 10, 20% of the time, and I'm just asking questions and letting them speak the rest of the time, I'm usually going to win.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to learn more information about the situation. I'm going to be able to solve the problem better. They're going to feel heard. They're going to feel valued. You just win. It always works that way. And, as, like this podcast, I think one of the reasons it's done very well is because I just have taken that philosophy of let me just ask really good questions. I'll let the guest take it where they will. Because like you even asked me, you're like, so like, where are we going with this? I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
And I'm like, great, I'll go wherever.
Yeah. And for me, I'm just, my intention is, hey, I want to go into this with some like idea of like what my desired outcome is. It's like, all right, I knew going into it that you're an amazing speaker and, you know, you've got a lot of knowledge on all the things we're already talking about. I'm like, I'm going to dive deep into that. And wherever the rabbit hole leads, it leads, because I want to be a better speaker selfishly. Yeah. And I think that usually the things that I'm trying to do is usually what the audience is also trying to do. Yeah. And it's not that you have to even speak on stage to utilize this gift. How you speak to your spouse, how you speak to your employees, how you speak when you're trying to get a deal, it's the same principles.
100%. And I think oftentimes too, we think stages are the big stages. It's like your phone's a stage, your Instagram's a stage, your Facebook's a stage. And I'm a big believer that every day that you don't share your story, someone's suffering because they haven't met you yet. I'm not going to save everybody. I can't save it, but not everybody likes me, and that's okay, right? That's okay, right? But someone needs your testimony. Someone needs your story. Someone needs your message. And there's people out there waiting for you. You know, like my mentor told me, he said, Nick, there's people out there ready to pay you hand over fist. They just don't know you exist.
Oh.
And so you just got to get known.
Hey, where do you get all these good sayings? Every speaker I know has like good rhymes. That's what I lack.
Great. So another thing, a little speaker nuance is like, you know who are great speakers? Pastors.
Yep. Pastors kill it.
Pastors crush, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they're always developing new content, new sermons, new segments, right? But also what's pretty cool is when you rhyme things, people are like, the crowd go, oh, you know, like they like it, right? So I told you, I said, in order to heal it, you have to feel it. If you don't feel it, you never what? Crowd goes, heal it.
Yeah.
They know it, right? And so I said another one is like, there's a reason for every season, because every season there's a lesson. What a blessing. Like you create these, right? It makes you feel cool, right? But it's like, you look great on stage. Like you look like you know what you're doing. Yeah. And so I pick up on one-liners. So when I study speakers, I'm like, oh, it's a good one. Or, oh, I like that. You know, I'm giving credit for that one, right? But I think you can create them. Yeah. You know, like my brain operates in the framework that we teach is story, teach, breakthrough, or story, teach, tool you may have heard of, right? But it's like, what's the story? What's the teaching from that story? And then the tool is a thought-provoking question that allows them to integrate the lesson into their life. Can I give you an example? Yeah. Right? My parents had to focus on the 30% chance of me living versus the 70% chance of me dying. The reason being, what you focus on, you get more of. See, I just dropped the teaching. What you focus on, you get more of. What you focus on, you feel. What you feel is your life. Now, what if I were to tell you that there's 3 big focus patterns that screw most humans and entrepreneurs up? And then I go into an exercise. But I just use the story to tee up the teaching. And then with the teaching, I have an exercise for them to go through. Right? It's the same thing. I could do it all day. I had to cut my arm off to become a wrestler. Now, maybe it's not an arm like you. But what are the very people in your life right now that you need to cut off that are no longer serving you? See what I did there? Yeah. I took a story that was my own story, but I made it their story by asking a thought-provoking question on how they can relate it to them. Yeah. Right? Another way that you can, we're getting all the sauce, right? But another way that you can make your story the audience's story is something that we call the I versus you transition. Shout out to my mentors, Eileen, Joe, right? Like I paid a lot of money to learn from all these different people that speak. But the I versus you transition is very simple. And the I versus you transition is anytime that you feel yourself as a speaker saying like I, me, all you do is you shift and you say, how many of you? And then you go into it. So for example, it's like, I was in high school and middle school and, you know, I got bullied a lot. You know, I was insecure. I'm just curious, how many of you in here were maybe insecure when you were in high school? Show of hands. You see what I did there? I just, very small, subtle transition is I made my story their story. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Right? So those are some small nuances. But I tell our students all the time is the story can be mediocre. Yeah. The teaching could be okay. Yeah. But the question, you drop a question on someone that they've never been asked before, or they haven't sat there in a present moment and thought about, you're going to jumble up some brains. If you jumble up some brains, they're going to have some breakthroughs.
And is your coaching now about public speaking? What is it about? Yeah.
So my lowest tier is my inner circle, which inner circle is just all about psychology, community, and getting in the room with coaching. So it's basically me doing a sermon, but it's basically me like today's Monday, we do our calls, but basically they know every single Monday, Nick jumps on Zoom and he's going to rip it. He's just going to rip something. He's going to give me some insight. He's going to give me some breakthroughs. And then I bring in like celebrities and stuff. That's inner circle. But in order to lead others, you have to be willing to lead yourself. And so if people aren't ready to speak on stage, typically we want them to be in the psychology stuff so they can start building themselves into the version that they can give to the world, right? And so then we have our speaker mentorship, and our speaker mentorship basically is based off of 3 things.
Yeah.
How to create irresistible offer, because there's no point of you being on stage if you have nothing to offer people.
Yeah.
That's my belief, right?
Yeah,
because there's only so much transformation that can happen in an hour keynote, but the real transformation happens when you give people an opportunity to go deeper with you.
Mm-hmm.
So first you got to create an offer. You got to figure out what you have, what result, what map, package a position, and create an offer. The second thing is you go into creating your keynote, right? And basically I give them a syntax on how to create a keynote, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And this is a skeleton where you can create multiple different talks no matter what audience that you're in, right?
Yeah.
So now that you have your offer, you have your keynote. Now, after you have your keynote, we give you and deploy strategies on how to book stages. Stages could be podcasts, stages could be in person, they could be virtual, anywhere. But once you know what you're offering people, and once you know how to storytell in a methodical way, and once you know how to call to action, you'll never run out of leads.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never run out of impact. You'll never run out of income. There are people right now that are listening to this that will message me afterwards and be like, where do I sign up?
Yeah.
I know it, right? If they align.
Yep.
But that's the whole thing is when you speak and you're authentic and you transform people. And by the way, I've spent a lot of years trying to create a message where everybody loves me. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that, right? I'm not trying to please everybody. I just show up myself. People are going to like me. They'll do business with me. If they don't, I didn't want you as a client anyway.
Yep.
And that's the vibe. And so we just help people extract their offer, help people extract all the stories so they can position themselves and create a keynote where they can go on a podcast or a stage. And then we show them how to get on these stages and how to generate income from those stages.
Yeah. No, I love it.
And that's what saved my life, right?
Yeah.
It's like COVID destroyed it. And if I didn't figure out how to create offers, if I didn't figure out how to get on virtual stages, if I didn't figure out how to create call to actions and get people to go deeper with me, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, dude. For anybody, by the way, we'll link to Nick's coaching down below in the description. So we'll get you guys all of that information if you're interested in that. But yeah, dude, I'm with you 100%, right? Offers and just stages. I mean, that's why I've been a big advocate for people building their personal brand and doing it through podcasting. I think podcasting is so powerful, whether you are doing your own podcast or you're getting on other people's podcasts. I think that, to your point, a stage is super powerful, and learning to speak on the stage that you're in is equally as powerful because you got to make something of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's one thing for you to land a stage, but if you open up your mouth, it don't sound good.
Yeah.
You ain't coming back.
No, you ain't getting invited back, and people probably ain't subscribing.
Yeah. And I've watched you. You've done a phenomenal job of like blowing it up, blowing the podcast up, your personal brand. I'm studying everybody. Right? I'm studying everybody. So I'm studying you. And I think podcast also is a great way to get reps in.
Oh, for sure.
For articulating, right? Like, and your first crack at anything will never be your best crack. So you guys want to see some silly stuff? Like go to my earliest podcast. One of my first podcasts was Bradley is horrendous. God bless. Thank you, Bradley. Let me on there. I need to go round too. But it was like, I was scared of Bradley too. I was scared because.
And how long ago was this?
6 years ago.
Yeah.
I was a little
dweeb. And also too, I mean, I'm sure Brad sucked too. I mean, 6 years ago, Brad starts this podcast and now he's at where he's at today with his podcast.
Yep.
And he'll be the first to tell you, it's like, dude, he got so many reps in that now his podcast is better. His short form's better. He speaks on stage better.
Yeah.
It's all better.
Yeah.
And I told Ed that too. So, I interviewed Ed at his house and he spoke at our last event, and he was like, bro, you're a really good podcast interviewer. Where did you learn? And I go, I don't know. Like, I just do it. I've just gotten a ton of reps in, and not only just podcasting, but real life, like just having conversations with people, negotiating, making relationships. He's like, dude, you're like extremely talented raw. Like you have like this amazing raw talent. He's like, if we just like refine you just a little bit, you're going to be good. And then he kind of just left me there. And I was like, well, bro, what am I going to like, what's the refinement look like? Let's take me to, this sugar and refine me into what I need to be. Make me a cake, and him and I have had conversations after of, just different things I need to do. But, the main thing being preparation, and like, even like to the point of what I just said I did again, which is what I need to stop doing, which is just walk up and be like, all right, let's roll, baby.
Yeah.
Well, whatever happens, happens.
Yep. I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel it. I went on, Ed was a big podcast early on, and I didn't have any offer. I didn't have any call to actions. My website sucked.
Yeah.
Do the interview with Ed, got like 8 million downloads. They crashed my website. I collected no leads, lost thousands, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Who knows? So Ed, we're going to have to run around too as well. But maybe Ed does that to people, because he looked at me and he's like, I'm busy right now. I got a lot of stuff going on, but I'd love to like help you out and mentor you a little bit. And I never heard anything from Ed. No, he's so busy. So maybe he just likes to keep people on open loops.
Yeah.
You know?
That Ed, dude.
Ed, we love you though.
We love him. No, he's actually been helping me behind the scenes. So it's a ongoing loop.
That's good.
So I got a lot of love for Ed, and it's been good just like building a relationship with him and everything he's been helping me with. So
I think he's a great example as well, is like when preparation meets opportunity, right? It's like Ed's been grinding for a very long time.
Yeah.
He's been speaking, building, leading for a very long time. And like, then it came to a point where like now he has this massive brand, but it's like, you don't see all the years that he was refining. You don't see all the years that he was speaking and leading and coaching and serving, you know? And I feel like me being 6 years in, I'm finally at that season where like preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Where people are like, who is this guy? Where's this guy been? It's like, yeah, I've been here. It just hasn't been this good, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I feel like the season is. So for those that are listening, it's like, if no one's booking you, if no one's calling you, if you don't have a lot going on or a lot of clients, it's like, just keep your head down and keep preparing. You know, we talk about with speakers, there's two types of speakers. You have puddles and you have wells. And you can tell when someone's a puddle, the very surface level, they don't have much to give. And you can tell when someone's a well. You know, and the difference between a puddle and a well is a puddle is a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah.
And a well is, you know, an inch wide and a mile deep. You look at John Maxwell, you look at Tony Robbins, you look at you, it's like you're a well and you go deep. And so I only know a lot about two things: psychology and breakthroughs, and communication. I stay in my lane. I outsource the rest, or a passive investor in real estate and stuff. I don't do that stuff. I just throw my money there.
Yep.
But I've dedicated my life to psychology from stage, psychology with breakthroughs, and communication.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm authority.
Just be the best.
Yeah.
That's it. No, I think it's great. And I agree. Most people that you think are like just came on the scene, oh no, they've been grinding a very long time. And I've like said many examples of people that have been on my show. Like they've told me their stories. I remember I had Patrick Bet-David on, and he was like, bro, you know, I started Valuetainment like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Our first 3 years, we had like 4,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And I just kept making videos and we started to figure it out. And he's like, it has not been this easy process that people think like we just didn't. And literally, I mean, you were just talking about Brad Lee, 6 years ago. I can name almost everybody. Nobody has come out of nowhere. Like there's almost no one. And even with a guy like Andrew Tate, who came out of nowhere, it's like, no, dude, that dude, he's been working at it.
Being dialed in
for a long time. It's just people didn't know.
Yeah.
And even for me, I tell people, I'm like, dude, yeah, I started doing social media during COVID. That was when I got on. But it's like, you know what I was doing grinding before that? Dude, I was flipping hundreds of homes. I was flipping couches. I was playing pro baseball. I was sleeping in buses and motels, all this crap, and it's all that stuff that ends up like, to your point, it makes you who you are today. It develops your mindset into who you are today so that when opportunity does present itself, you're prepared.
100%.
And it's like, all right, this thing with social media, this thing with COVID, I can do this. Like I already have the mindset that it's going to crush.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. We're all been building ourselves into the best version. And I always ask people, I'm like, what is the meaning that you give problems? What is the meaning that you give, friction within the journey? Because most humans, when they experience a problem, it's their sign to like run, or maybe I'm not doing it right. But for me and my model of the world is like, problem is a sign that I'm moving in the right direction. Problem is a sign that I'm taking action and there's some sort of disruption that's going to follow it. And a problem gives me the opportunity that I'm either going to step up or I'm going to step down. And so it's like, what's your relationship with problems? What's your relationship with rejection? What's your relationship with people telling you, like all those things go a long way. Yeah. And if we stopped at the first problem or the first challenge, like we wouldn't be here. No. We just got very good at getting comfortable with problems.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, one thing you mentioned was early on, like women were a big problem.
Yeah.
And that's what caused you to do a lot of the things you did. How is it today being famous and on stage? You know, like, is that still a problem?
No.
Yeah.
I just ended, I just got out of, we separated, a 5-year relationship. And relationships are the most challenging thing because your significant other shows you parts of yourself that you don't want to see. We're all mirrors for each other. What you don't like about me, you don't like it because it's in you. And what you like about me, you like it because it also resides in you as well. We're all just learning lessons and mirrors for each other, but especially the ladies and especially the men, right? When you're in that spouse shows you different parts of yourself. And so I think the more that I got certain, the more that I got confident in my body. Don't get me wrong, bodybuilding made me very comfortable in my body, and I love that, right? But the more that I became competent and was on purpose, I think attracted higher level women. You know, like we talk about boys seek, men attract, right? It's like when you have a high value man and he's on purpose and he knows his mission and he knows what he's creating and he's doing it in the world. They see it, they feel it, right? And so I was on my path and I was on my purpose and I got into this amazing relationship, and this phenomenal woman taught me a few things, which I think would benefit to the audience. She taught me that I could be loved, right? Like we're all of us are just looking for evidence. Some of you need evidence that your webinar is going to sell. You just need one yes. Some of you need evidence that you could book a stage. You just need one person to say yes. Some of you need evidence that you are worthy of a hot guy or a hot girl. You just need the one yes. Right? So we're looking for the evidence. She gave me evidence that I was lovable and I can handle that. But she also showed me how to love. I wasn't taught emotional intimacy. So I was like, hey, let's work through our problems. Let's communicate these things. She taught me how to get out of my head and into my heart. I think as men, we're so in our head, logical, very business, and we lose a lot of the intimacy when we're always in our head and not in our heart. And so she taught me how to be in my heart and be more grounded. And it was an amazing season. And that season is no longer, but I've gained a lot and I've learned a lot and I've become a better man. I know how to love better. I know how to be more present. I know how to be more intentional. And so the lesson is regardless of what relationship that you're in, make sure you learn some things.
There's a reason for every season.
Yeah, there you go. Right, it hits. Right, it slaps.
I got it.
Right, but learn. You know, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, it's like take every loss, extract the gold, and turn it into a W. Right, and so for me, that to wrap it up, girls are not a problem.
Yeah,
and girls are not a problem because one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had. For the longest time, I thought most of this dynamic was physical. But the truth is that when you're in a room with me, with my presence and with my certainty and with my confidence, people don't even realize that I have no legs but arm because the presence is so strong. And the presence is so strong comes from just me being confident, having an amazing relationship with myself, nurturing myself, loving myself, investing in myself, making me feel good, doing things that make me feel smart and kind and strong. And that vibe that I give off, let's be real. There's guys with all their arms and all their legs and they're bitching and moaning and complaining about things. It's like, I'm a very sexy character. They're like, how does this guy have less and he does more than most men? Yeah. So now I'm winning.
There we go, baby.
It's great. But I'm on purpose. You know, I'm on purpose. I'm intentional. I have a mission and girls think that's attractive. Yeah. And so men, get back on purpose, get back to the basics, nurture your body, nurture your mind, take care of yourself, heal your damn trauma, you know, like do the inner work, because the truth is like, we bounce around relationships. And like, if you don't heal the stuff, you just take that emotional baggage, you pack it up and you bring it to the next girl. It's like, let's just handle this and heal this now.
Yeah. I've said that to a few of my friends. I'm like, dude, you still have not figured you out. Like, it's not her. You're the problem, dude. Yeah. Like, that's still going to go with you wherever you go.
100%.
Because I'll have guys who are like, dude, I'm thinking about getting a divorce. And I'm like, okay, let's just say you do. You're still jacked up.
Yeah, let's handle it now.
Yeah.
Right? and I think the big thing too is we have a misconception that the girl or the guy is going to fill the void.
Yeah, that
this is
ain't
my
happening.
person. That's not it.
Yep.
Right? It's like you must be whole. You must be whole. Nothing in the external world is going to fill that hole. Right? So once you have an amazing relationship with yourself and you know how to love yourself, then you give love to others. But most of y'all get in relationships and you can't even receive love from the woman because you don't even know how to receive your own love. Right? And so you got to be whole first and understand that you get to the point where your life is amazing and the girl is just the cherry on top.
Yep.
And that's when you have a harmonious relationship, when two people come together and realize they're badasses on their own. And when they come together, it's even better.
Yeah.
But if they leave, you ain't gonna die.
Yeah. You'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, I love it, bro. And it's been great, getting to know you. And I'm excited to see all the things that we could do together, man. And I'm excited to just continue to learn from you and watch, how you're speaking and articulating and, the techniques and everything you're using. It's super cool. And, like I said, for anybody who's interested in that, we'll link to all Nick's coaching and everything down below. But bro, where else can they link up with you, man?
OnlyFans? No, I'm just kidding.
There we go, baby. That's why the girls are good now.
Right? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I've been stepping up my YouTube game.
Nice.
That was one of those things that I felt like I missed the wave on, but I don't think you missed it. The best time for you to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time for you to plant a tree is today. So I've been getting on YouTube, but I think people who are on YouTube are students and they learn and they want to go full immersion. So you can find me on all those platforms. And then I also want to acknowledge you for not only being an amazing host and a question asker, but your pursuit of growth and your pursuit of building things and creating things, because there's a lot of people who are in a way better place because of you and your work, bro. So I want to honor you.
I appreciate that, bro.
You got it.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you subscribe for the next one, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
I don't love all the work. I love meeting the next version of me. I love more self-discovery. I love expanding my being. I'm addicted to the expansion of me.
We're both baseball guys. And I remember making literally $1,200